Welcome to the Front Office Exchange, where we take a look at the careers of executives and rising stars within the sports business. Now here's your host, Jake Failing.
Welcome to episode 27 of the Front Office Exchange podcast, where today we meet Jarrod Dillon, Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, Jarrod was a referral from previous guest Doug Warf, and he's nearing his 2-year anniversary with the Lightning. I tell him a story of a recent trip of mine to Tampa, where in meeting with several sports business executives in the area, they all to a person raved at the Lightning organization, both on the ice and off. Jarrod acknowledges that, yes, on-ice success definitely doesn't hurt, but he also discusses how the Lightning's strong front office leadership has bred a team-wide winning culture. Now, Jarrod was previously a West Coaster, so he chats about his family's move east and with stops at the Raiders, Padres, San Francisco Giants, and in minor league baseball, he offers a unique all sports, all leagues perspective on careers, advice, and much more. So without further ado, the Tampa Bay Lightning's Jarrod Dillon. Jarrod Dillon, welcome to the Front Office Exchange. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, Jake, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
No, well, I was excited to be referred to you by Doug Warf, who another hockey executive, but no longer. It's amazing how fast things change, especially on his end. But regardless, he spoke very highly of you, a fellow Southeast hockey executive. So I'm sure you guys have experienced much of the same things. I know that you've been there only about 2 years, right? You're coming on your 2-year anniversary.
Yeah, coming up on my 2-year anniversary, and Doug's someone that I met pretty early on here, and he and a couple other counterparts in Carolina are folks that I've known through my career in sports and have a lot of respect for what they've done there. We've definitely tried to take some of that and model it around what we've been doing at Tampa the last few years. But yeah, I'll be 2 years here with the Lightning coming up in about a week.
Well, congratulations. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
No, well,
it's gone fast, which is a good thing. It means you're having fun.
Yeah, exactly. You guys have had plenty of success. And, I'm from North Carolina. I know the Hurricanes' entire story. They've obviously seen the highest of the highs and in more recent years, unfortunately, the lowest of the lows. And, I just wonder, you talk about that relationship with Doug and just jump in there. Do the teams in the Southeast region of the U.S., I don't want to say it's a bad rap, but it is not technically or historically, hockey territory. So is there kind of a best practices, almost kind of like small group when you guys get together for conferences or things like that?
Yeah, it's funny that you should mention that. I certainly look at my counterparts in other markets that maybe wouldn't be perceived as traditional hockey markets, or really what we look at more than anything is just like markets. So whether that's from a DMA standpoint, size, number of Fortune 500 companies, demographics of the fan base. Things like that, is what we really look at, and some of the counterparts we try to speak with. Trying to compare ourselves up against the original sixes of the world. Just quite frankly, it wouldn't probably do us a lot of good. We're just in completely different places from a business standpoint. Not to say we don't try to take great ideas from those teams, because they have a lot of them, and we certainly do. I think we just learn a lot in speaking with other counterparts in very similar markets, and Carolina was certainly one. We speak to our friends at the Florida Panthers down the road quite a bit. I look at other places, whether it be Nashville, some of the West Coast teams, Anaheim, San Jose, Arizona, we even St. Louis to a degree. We kind of have this group. I don't want to say it's anything formal. It's just people that I know and respect in the industry that I'll reach out to from time to time. And the NHL does a really good job at our league meetings as well of trying to, when we're looking at data that's shared across the league, when you're looking at all 30 teams, soon to be 31, comparing data, making sure you understand, more relevant market-to-market peer groups is really important for comparisons. So they do the analytics and group there at the NHL Club Services do a great job with helping us do that as well.
And, we talked a little bit about this in our first introductory call. I just had some business down in Tampa and met with people from the Rays and the Bucks, and all of them spoke so highly of you. And I know we laughed. You said, hey, it's easy when you've got the success on the ice. But what else? I mean, there's got to be something else that you're doing that you can attribute to, getting that much attention, getting that groundswell in a place like Tampa with hockey.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we're certainly bucking the trend of kind of hockey and in the Sun Belt and that type of thing. And that does not happen overnight. It certainly doesn't happen in the 2 years that I've been here. I mean, this has been going on. The franchise will be celebrating its 25th anniversary season next season, and most significantly, winning a Stanley Cup in 2004. Going through some very difficult times after that, some ownership changes, but where we landed 6 years ago or so now was a complete game changer for this organization and for this community, and that's when Jeff Vinik bought this team. And I will say it to anybody that will listen to me for the rest of my life, it starts and stops there. The success of this franchise and where it is now with the brand, the community, never being more popular is because of what Jeff Vinik has done. And again, that doesn't happen overnight. It's been a work in progress for 6+ years for him now. But it started with him taking ownership of the team and putting great people into position to have great success, hiring Steve Yzerman as our general manager on the hockey side. Can't get much more knowledgeable about the game of hockey and constructing a team than Steve Yzerman, right? And then putting Todd Leiweke and Steve Griggs in charge of the business operations. And, Todd and Steve had worked together in the past. They had launched the Minnesota Wild together, done so many different things on the business side, just unbelievable success everywhere those two gentlemen had been. When you look at that on the outside looking in, you're giving yourself the best fighter's chance you can to have success in another market. And when they got here and they started, every single business metric that we measure off of and the industry measures off of, we're at all-time lows. And so to be able to see where they've turned that, and we as an organization have turned that around in the last 6 years, is pretty amazing. Todd Leiweke moved on to the NFL, as many people know, as a chief operating officer, working under Roger Goodell probably a year and a half ago now. And Steve Griggs, who was our president, assumed the CEO role. And we haven't missed a beat. I mean, Steve's an incredible leader. He works extremely well with Steve Yzerman to help us bridge that gap that sometimes exists between business and the player side, whether that be hockey or baseball or football. I've worked in all three. I've seen it everywhere you go. Those two gentlemen working together towards one common goal has been amazingly helpful. So you talk about a leader in Jeff Vinik, Steve Yzerman, Steve Griggs, that give us as executives and our staff the resources to be successful. That's really where it started. And then from there, I could give you multiple, programs or platforms that I think have helped us get to this point. But the single most I would point to is the difference that Jeff Vinik and his wife and their foundation have made in the community of Tampa. Todd Leiweke, who Jeff would even give the credit to himself, I've heard him say it a million times, creating the Community Heroes program, where for the last 5+ years, the Lightning and the foundation have given a Tampa Bay area nonprofit a $50,000 check for every single game, including the lockout season, for every day that there would have been a game.
Wow.
And when we got to the Stanley Cup final 2 years ago, I think that got all the way as high as $200,000 donations and from the foundation to these Tampa Bay area nonprofits. So it's allowed us and it's allowed an owner like Jeff Vinik to come into a market where he, didn't live here, originally from Boston. But when he bought the team, he moved his entire family and at his time, his business here, because he was truly believed in investing in the community and being here and meeting people and shaking hands and understanding what the causes are, understanding what the challenges are, understanding what the opportunities are in a market. And so when you have a leader, an owner that does that, and over the course of that program, I believe it's over $12 million now, have gone to Tampa Bay nonprofits, and he just signed up to do it for another 5 years. Amazing. I mean, you talk to any business leader in this community, whether it be a sponsor, a season seat holder, a suite holder, and I will tell you, there are folks here that go, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, I didn't know anything about hockey. But I wanted to do business with the Lightning because I wanted to support Jeff Vinik, and I believed in what he was doing was going to make Tampa a better place. And so that, keep in mind the team's been very good for the last 2 years. This goes back 5-6 years ago. when the team was not,
Right.
necessarily that great, and we weren't going to the playoffs. So a lot of that transcends kind of the success on the ice, and I think there was a lot of work that was done for 4 years to get it to that point, and then when the team performance started kicking in, that really helped us put it into overdrive and fast forward things. So, a little bit of timing there, a little bit of luck, but I think, it's because of the people that Jeff has put into place here, and Steve, and both Steve Griggs and Steve Eiserman. So, again, I cannot stress that enough. I've been fortunate to work for some other really good organizations and really good owners, but I have never seen the impact that an owner can have on a market like I've seen with Jeff Vinnick and Jeff and his wife Penny. So it's been pretty amazing, and I would put that at the top of the list of what's helped us get to achieve a lot of the accolades and things that have come in nationally over the last couple of years.
Well, that's really impressive. So as Executive VP Sales and Marketing, give us a peek into what the structure of your team looks like. Do you report up into Steve? If you could kind of explain that side of the business for the Lightning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, we have 5 EVPs. I'm one of them. We report into the CEO, Steve Griggs. My business departments, disciplines that I oversee first would be anything ticketing related. So we all ticket sales, ticket services, the box office, all those things that are ticketing related. We probably have about 40 to 50 people in that within those departments in ticketing. The second group would be marketing. Probably about 15 people in the marketing group, and that's anything related to our marketing strategy. So that could be creative services, branding overall, all of our advertising, grassroots marketing, live events, all of our entertainment in terms of the cheerleaders and mascot and community things that we're doing out there with our mobile marketing unit and our street team, as well as all the digital database, website, social media, etc. All those groups kind of report up to my VP of marketing. That reports to me. The third group is our business analytics and strategy group, which a couple of years ago was really just focused on helping ticketing with pricing and analytics around dynamic pricing or forecasting and revenue projections, and really under the leadership of Chris Kamke, our Senior Director of Strategy and Analytics, we've grown that group into be more of an in-house consulting group where they go department to department and help on special projects, anything that we have access to data to help us make better data-driven decisions. They're heavily involved, and that would also involve our entire annual business planning process for the company. And then the fourth group that I have oversight of is retail. So we have a great partner in Delaware North who does all of our food and beverage and retail in the building, and I liaison with them over all of the management and operations and strategy and marketing of retail. Because that is obviously such a big part of our brand. Folks wearing, the Lightning, wearing the bolt on their head, on a hat, on their shirt, on a jersey, whatever it is, we take that very seriously. So we work directly with Delaware North there to make sure that group is being operated as best as possible.
Okay. And you were recruited to the Lightning, I assume, from the Padres. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I spent... my background, I spent about 5.5 years at the San Diego Padres. Right. Great organization, great city. Ran ticketing there for 3 years, and then corporate sponsorship partnerships for just shy of another 3 years during my 5.5, 6 years there.
Okay. And just curious, you're a West Coast, dare I say, a Cali guy. Now you're 2 years in on the East Coast. What do you think? What are your impressions? Let's start personal side. How has that transition been for you?
Yeah, well, the beaches are a lot more user-friendly here in Tampa and in Florida, I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
No, it's interesting. I did born and raised on the West Coast in the San Francisco Bay Area. Went to college, undergrad, University of Oregon, grad school, Sonoma State University, which is about an hour north of San Francisco, and spent my entire career until I moved here on the West Coast between a short stint in minor league baseball, San Francisco Giants, Oakland Raiders, San Diego Padres over the first 14 years of my career. So was, pretty much a California guy, as you mentioned, at West Coast certainly. And, it took a lot for my family and I, my wife and 3 young daughters, to pick up and relocate across the country where we had no support system personally, professionally, didn't know the folks other than the interview process, didn't know the community, at least just what you could tell over a couple times in the market for an interview, right? But it took a lot, and it would have taken a lot to get us to leave, San Diego. And really, I go back to the point I made previously. It's because of the people.
Yeah.
I came here because when I came twice over the course of 2 months of kind of that interview process, I spent time with Jeff Innick. I spent time with Todd Lewicki and Steve Griggs and the rest of the leadership team here, and I was blown away at what was happening here. And going to a game and seeing the environment and seeing how the community was responding to the brand, and I never forget coming home. I flew back, first flight out at like 5:30 in the morning on Thanksgiving, roughly 2 years ago. And I remember walking back into the house in San Diego and telling my wife, hey, if I get this opportunity, like, we're going. Like, we need to be a part of this. It's amazing what is going on in Tampa. And fortunately for us, that ended up proving true. But yeah, it was.
Was there any
never an easy transition? That's for sure.
Was there any point where you both looked at each other and said, "Are we really leaving San Diego?" I mean, because also
truthfully, yes.
I was going to say, come on.
If any of our listeners have been to San Diego, it's
unreal.
It's an amazing place from a weather perspective and just quality of life. And we've been very fortunate to come to a place like Tampa where it's very similar. There's a reason why millions of people vacation to Florida and Tampa in particular every year, right? So we're fortunate to have gone from one beautiful place to another.
Right.
What I will tell you, what I've learned about Tampa in a short amount of time, again, 2 years, but I learned this in the first couple months I was here, is such a great community, business community. The leaders, you are literally 1 degree of separation from getting in contact or getting to know any of the key leaders in the greater Tampa Bay area, Clearwater, St. Pete, all over Tampa proper. I mean, it is amazing. And then from a community standpoint, just amazing people. A lot of folks have relocated here, very similar to what I went through in San Diego. There was a very heavy military population in San Diego like we have here in Tampa. I want to say the latest statistic our marketing agency shared with us is that only roughly 34% of people living in Tampa were born in the state of Florida. So heavy transplant relocation area, very similar to what I saw in San Diego. There are inherently great opportunities with that. There are inherently great challenges with that as well. And I think my time in San Diego helped prepare me for those challenges here.
Now let's take it to the professional side. I don't know if anyone made the trip with you from West to East Coast, if you were even allowed to. If contractually you may not have been able to purge any talent, but how would you compare the markets? Everywhere, if it's a sports job, the line is long for these jobs. I understand that. But, I assume you've had to shape and build the team there with Tampa, or maybe you inherited a great one. So can you walk through that a little bit?
Yeah, no, it's a great story. Very different than my experience in San Diego, which was, we went through a couple years of really extensive rebuilding. The opportunity here in Tampa, and I knew this coming in after meeting the people, not only Mr. Vinnick and Steve Griggs and others, but when I had a chance to meet the rest of the executive leadership team, when I had a chance to meet the directors and vice presidents that I would, quote unquote, kind of inheriting, a lot of those folks had been here the last couple of years. Certainly in the last 4 or 5 years, Steve was really able to put his stamp on the organization and made a lot of those significant changes with leadership. So I was very blessed to come into a position where, of course, you're going to make some tweaks and you have maybe a different philosophy and those things, but from a personnel and a leadership standpoint, one of the best situations I could have imagined walking into. And we've had very minimal turnover at the leadership level while I've been here. That's something I've been very proud of. I think we've been able to make changes together, work well together without having to make sweeping changes or quote unquote blowing anything up. It's been how do we go from good to great has kind of really been the mantra, and how do we what got you here won't get you there type of mentality, right? So all those things in the past, all those accolades and successes are great. How do we keep raising the bar? And from a people standpoint, again, very excited to have had the team here. The latest update there is one of my senior directors, one of our very best people in the organization, Ryan Bringer, recently took a position as the vice president of ticket sales and service with the Washington Nationals. Hard to lose a leader, hard to lose someone that led our new sales campaign that generated the most new sales in the NHL 2 years in a row. But you know what? We were ready. Ryan was ready for that opportunity, and he's joining a great organization in the Nationals with the folks that they have there, Valerie and others, and he's ready to become a vice president. And here in Tampa, it's all about succession planning. It's all about personal and professional growth. And, we're going to have 4 or 5 people that end up getting somehow promoted with more responsibilities because of that one domino dropping. And we were able to keep that all in-house, promote it all from within, and continue our mantra of development and helping getting people what we like to call lightning made.
Okay, and so it sounds like you've built a strong bench. Before he took that job, did he say, no, look, you've got to promise me you're going to sign Harper to a long-term deal or else?
I think some news came out recently, right? They did, didn't they? Did they get something done? There was some announcement on that, maybe 2 days after he took the job. I told him good timing.
Yeah, I think it was arbitration.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
But I think 2 years now.
He's in for a lot of fun. I came from my background, 12 years of my career have been in baseball. Love it, and great organization in Washington, great market, great ballpark, great product on the field, and they got the All-Star game coming in 2 years. So he's going into a great situation there. And the best thing I can say about it is, I do really believe in the mantra of leave a place better than the way you found it. Yep. And Ryan did that here, and with him and myself and the rest of our leadership team to be able to develop that bench strength of our future leaders and have them ready when the time came to assume new responsibilities. And again, as I mentioned, 4 to 5 people being promoted because of that. Man, if there's anything I'm proud of in the last 2 years here, that's probably the thing I'm most proud of.
Well, that's great. And you talk about the baseball background and then football as well. We had someone on earlier, in an earlier episode, Brian Killingsworth, who's your former counterpart there with the Bucks, who now has moved on to something else. I don't know if it's the podcast I don't know if it's a good bump or bad. Brian and Doug, they're changing their career, so just be careful, Jarrod, all right?
Yeah, don't mess with me, man. I'm happy here.
Seriously. But no, he had multiple sports in his background as well. So would love to hear perspective from you. I know we could sit here for hours talking about the differences, but, between baseball, football, hockey, you've even got the minor league baseball as well. Are there any key differences between working in all of those other than 162 games versus fewer?
Yeah, certainly a lot of differences for sure. But I am always of the mindset, and I would argue with my counterparts, there's more similarities than there are differences. I think at its core, in terms of specifically looking at ticket sales and service, and marketing and those type of things, at the business foundation core, there is blocking and tackling and principles that carry over across. It doesn't matter what the product is; it really doesn't. And I try to spend time as much as I can, not only talking to my counterparts around sports, but outside of sports. I love to hear the marketing strategies or sales strategies or customer service retention strategies of great companies, whether it's Silicon Valley companies or the Targets of the world, Zappos of the world. I try to see what we can learn from those industries and bring them in here. And so in sports, again, I've been fortunate to work in minor league baseball, professional baseball, NFL, and NHL. And not only NHL, but we run and own and operate an arena football team. We operate the arena. So you talk about every show that comes through here. I think we're the second most trafficked arena in the state of Florida. Major shows coming through here. So many event dates, so many people coming through here, whether it's working with our partners at Feld Entertainment on all the great events that they bring in, to major promoters, bringing in the world's best talent. getting to do all of that, was another reason why I came here, that whole entertainment factor aside from just sport. So I do think, again, back to the original question, there are a lot of similarities, more similarities than differences. Of course, league to league, team to team, event to event, there's going to be, different dynamics and things that are very specific to that. But I think, at least at my core, my philosophies on how I try to build a sales and service department and marketing department are all very similar and have been, down to my roots, starting with the San Francisco Giants and leading me here to where I am today. And I think that's a testament to the people I've worked with. I've been if I've done anything in life, I've picked to work for some really good leaders. If there's any people that are aspiring to work in this industry that are listening to this podcast, a word of advice is don't ever take a job about, geography or title or compensation, especially early in your career. It's go where the best people are. Those are going to be they're going to help you build your foundation. They're going to be your friends and your mentors for life. And I've been able to work for 4 or 5 that are just what I consider some of the best in the business. And you learn a lot from every single one of them that helps you become the executive that you become someday.
That's great advice. Just to take, again, the differences between the sports a little further, what in your 2 years have you experienced where you said, wow, maybe this is more challenging than I thought in hockey, or 2, wow, this is better than I could have ever imagined?
Great question. I think...
fewer games is the easy one.
Go ahead.
Fewer games is the easy one, right?
Yes. The best kind of, I don't want to call it a surprise because I had been to games before, but the thing that I think hockey that is so powerful that has going for us, and I know I'm going to sound like a homer here because I work in the sport, but it is really, in my opinion, the best live sporting event that there is. Coming to the arena, and we're fortunate to have, many sellouts, and when you're sitting there with 20,000 people in a small kind of arena setting and the building is full and you have all the lights and the effects and the Jumbotron, our lightning vision, we have real lightning in the building that we shoot off. Just the sensory overload and the entertainment value is amazing. It is completely different than anything I've done in the past, and that was one of the biggest draws for me. So one of our biggest philosophies is if I can get you here, if I can get you to a Lightning game, you are going to come back. We really, truly believe that, and that's twofold. That's because of the entertainment quality, and it's because of the fan experience, customer service side. We've invested a lot of time, money, and resources over the last 6 years of Jeff's ownership to create what we hope and think is the best, if not one of the best, then certainly one of the top fan experiences, guest services experiences when you come to Amalie Arena. How are you greeted? How do our day of game staff, our ushers, our ticket takers, our parking attendants, all of our partners that are all in this together with us, how do they greet you? Are they helpful? Are they going over the top in terms of customer service? Like, we can't control what goes down on the ice and win or lose, but we can control that parking lot to parking lot experience to some degree, and that's what we aim to try to do. So I think that's probably been the one thing that was even bigger and better than I could have thought of coming here, and I would say it's one of the biggest reasons for the successes that we've had is, win or lose, when you come to this arena, you're going to have a great time and you're going to want to come back. And that's a testament to the 2,000 plus people that work here on every event, whether that's a Lightning game, a Storm football game, a concert, whatever it is. And we secret shop ourselves 5 times, per event. And, we're scoring, 98% plus, which is unheard of in this industry, by independent secret shoppers, and it's really a testament to the work that Jeff Innick, Steve Griggs, Daryl Binge, who runs our arena, and Mary Millam, who runs our guest services program, the time and effort that they've put in with all of our game day employees. It's really kind of a one-team mantra. Doesn't matter what your job is, if you're front of house, back of house, if you work in engineering, conversion, housekeeping, you're an usher, you're a ticket taker, you're the CEO of the company, everybody knows each other. we all wear name tags. We all know your name. We all say hello to each other. That translates, that attitude, that one team kind of servant leader mentality translates to our fans. That, to me, is the secret sauce of what this organization has done. So I think by far and away, that was the biggest surprise to me and kind of key learning that I would take with me for my career. On the flip side, maybe some of the bigger challenges, I think one of which we're actually doing, in my opinion, pretty well with, but one of them is just, hockey in the South, a lot of people didn't grow up playing the game. And the franchise has been here 24 years, so it's not like we have, original 600-plus years. Toronto, our friends just, celebrated their 100-year anniversary, right? So teaching the game, whether it be California or Florida, traditionally a lot of kids don't grow up skating, playing the game. You might grow up playing football or baseball, whatever it is. So one of the key tenets for us to kind of help that and develop that is the work that we've done by creating our community hockey department, which is led by Jay Feaster, who is the general manager of the 2004 Stanley Cup champion Lightning team. He's come back. He's brought alumni players back, and these guys are doing amazing work in the community, getting kids on the ice, kids that maybe aren't ready for that, getting them to play street hockey. And just learning the game and the fundamentals and developing a passion for the game. I think when you can understand the game a little more, it makes it even that more relevant to you when you come out. And we've put a lot of time and energy and effort into that, working with the NHL and the league's industry growth fund to develop youth hockey in Tampa, the Tampa Bay area. So I think that's one of the bigger challenges is just we're a young franchise and we're a sport that maybe not a lot of people played necessarily themselves. So it's getting those casual fans that maybe don't understand the game to learn more. Right. Dave Anderchuk, one of the greatest, in my opinion, one of the greatest, players all time of hockey. He was the captain of that 2004 team, works here alongside us. He probably does 15 to 20 very specific hockey tutorials, if you want to call it. It's part of our Lightning university kind of program where you learn hockey 101, 201, 301, and you learn the game. And Dave's breaking down on film what's happening. And we get hundreds of fans that go through each of these classes, and every time they do, they're learning something new. They're getting more passionate about the game of hockey. They are developing more of a passion for Lightning, the Lightning specifically. So, I think that's probably coming in. One of the challenges I knew would be there, but we've taken a lot of steps in the right direction over the last 5-6 years to get us to where we are today.
I love the Hockey 101 idea. So as we wrap up here, let's take a closer look inside of you. So off the ice, let's say. You mentioned Zappos earlier. I caught that. You seem like kind of you're in that category of lifelong learner. You appreciate strong business leaders and concepts and things like that outside of the sports industry. How do you get your information? Are you you like to read printed materials? Are you a Twitter guy, podcasts? Where do you get your information?
Yeah, a lot of it is for me through Twitter and then just in reading, whether it be articles, for me, reading different articles about what's going on in the industry, whether it's the customer service industry, the retail industry, entertainment as a whole, highlighting certain companies. I love to read articles. It's a lot easier to do during the course of the day than, try to open up and read a new book. I'll try to sprinkle in a new book here and there, whether it's a Dale Carnegie, book,
oh, wow,
whether it's Gladwell.
Sure.
I got some of my favorites, but I think just trying to find the time to do that, I think, is critical. It's probably something earlier in my career I did not do enough in hindsight. And listen, everybody's busy. Everybody's schedules are hectic. It's really important to carve that time out for kind of continuous learning, continuous education. And I'll probably consume most of that by reading articles that are shared with me via Twitter or someone emails me or searching them out on my own. But that's probably been the best part. One of the things I've focused on in my career over the last couple of years is trying to do that more and more and apply those strategies that maybe aren't specific to sports and entertainment to our industry.
I think in terms of books, you and I are probably reading the same thing with 3 young kids. A lot of cardboard, thick pages.
I gave up on the parenting books a long time ago.
Oh my gosh, they're all they
after our first one, I knew I could read as much as I want, but nothing prepares you for actually just doing it.
I was gonna say those books just made me angry. Like all
maybe
right,
maybe I'll write one now that I have 3 daughters.
Right.
So.
Right. And then finally, you mentioned a little bit of advice earlier about choose your boss, choose the team, choose the leaders. Is there any other advice that you like to give, or some really good advice that you've received? And then to further that, what do you look for, whether it's that recent graduate or someone that's maybe on your team that's a manager that's hoping to get promoted to director and so on?
Well, if you love your job, you're not really working, right? Is kind of the abbreviated of that old adage. But I've always been a firm believer in that. If you find something that you are passionate in, you are going to inherently be better and be more successful at it. So whatever that is, find your passion or passions and pursue them. And there will be a job, there will be a career that can come of any of those. I'm convinced of that, but I just deep down believe, and I've been very lucky that I've been in an industry from day one out of college that was what I wanted to do. And I haven't deviated from that. And there's been times where maybe you look at other opportunities outside the industry, things come by you, and it just, I could not imagine myself not being able to do what I do every day. I'm so blessed and fortunate to be able to come to an office where there's, 250 other passionate people that care so much about what we are doing. And that you can't help but get fired up and excited about that. So I guess that, if I could sum it up in terms of advice, it's make sure you pursue your passions, find out what you're passionate about and pursue them relentlessly, and don't take no for an answer. I mean, if I took no for an answer, I would never be working in this industry. I must have got shot down 15, 20 times to try to volunteer, free work, free labor, be an unpaid intern coming out of college. And, finally someone gave me a chance. And, it's just don't ever give up on those dreams, on those passions. So I think that's a big one for me. And then the other one, I did say it earlier, but I can't stress it enough. It's, choose your, position, choose an opportunity on the people and who are the people that you're going to be working with day in, day out. Can you learn? Are you going to grow? Do they have your back? Is it that type of servant leader that's going to carry you much, much further in your career than a better title or a little more money in the short term? And I've been blessed to do that everywhere in my career. I mean, I've worked for people, obviously I mentioned Steve Griggs here and Jeff Vinnick, but Tom Garfinkel, the CEO of the Miami Dolphins, Brent Stellick, the Chief Revenue Officer of the Cleveland Browns, Rob Sullivan, who runs all premium seating for Madison Square Garden, Jeff Tucker, Senior Vice President of the San Francisco Giants. I mean, I've been able to work for these 4 or 5 gentlemen along the way who are just amazing leaders. And the thing that I've always been impressed by them is, you're going to learn something new, obviously, but one of the commonalities is they're all amazing, family men that balance that work-life balance of working in sports and entertainment while having a family and still being the best husband and father and those type of things that you can be. And so that's why I go back to, and it's easy to sit back and look on this, but, I've always tried to follow my career in terms of follow the people, right? Not as much, the title or geography or compensation.
Well, Jarrod, this was fun. As a Southeasterner, North Carolinian, I'm glad to see that hockey in the Southeast is in good hands. So I'm glad you've had a good first 2 years of the Lightning. I wish you many more. You guys have had a real rough go of it here these last few years on ice.
Yep, we have.
No, congrats on all the
fortunate.
success. No, certainly. Thank you for coming on and sharing advice, especially across all the different sports. And again, I wish you and your team continued success.
I appreciate you having me on, and we'll love to do it again sometime. So thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Front Office Exchange, where you hear about the careers of some of the leading executives in sports business. Visit us at frontofficeexchange.com, on Facebook at Front Office Exchange, and on Twitter at Front Office EXCH to access past episodes, show notes, and much, much more.